Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let's test this stream out. I'm going to check it out on Twitch first. And Twitch is playing an ad. In the meanwhile, let's check it out on Facebook. See if I can hear myself. Yep, I can hear myself. All right. And Twitch is playing an ad. In the meanwhile, let's check it out on... there you go. And then it's on Twitch. Yep, I can hear myself on Twitch too, so all is well. Check the chat log. Hi, everybody. Okay. Good morning. Well, morning for me. It's 8 a.m. in LA. That's where I'm based. And just as a quick recap for you guys, if you're joining me for the first time, my name is Aiman Akhtar. I'm a 3D artist in Los Angeles, and I've been doing a lot of 3D printing in the past 4 years. So you can check out some of my works on my site, aiman3d.com. This is some of the print stuff I've been doing. Large-scale prints with the Lion Studios, and some personal work, a lot of stop-motion animation work with Stupid Buddy Studios, vinyl toy prototyping with 3 Black Dot, some 3D printing for concept art. So I've been bouncing around a lot in LA. This sculpt I made in Oculus Medium. I want to get back into that. And I have my own company, 3D Smiths, in which I help people make their pitch materials, so 2D drawings into 3D prints. And the latest thing I've been working on is Fungusaurs. It's my own and my wife's toy line that we're launching together, little dinosaur mushroom hybrids. You can learn more about that at fungusaurs.com. And this is kind of what I'll be working on my stream mostly, is creating new Fungusaurs and working towards the launch of the toy line and the apps in November this year. So yeah, there's a lot to do. Because I'm working on launching the toy line and the app, I'm going to stop making new Fungusaurs and focus on wrapping these guys up as far as the augmented reality game goes. So that's what I'm going to jump into next week. Today I wanted to just tie up the ones I've already started on the stream. What else? These days I'm working at Hero Forge. It's a startup in Santa Monica. The name is Sky Castle Studios, and it's a miniature company basically. Well, it does a lot of things, but its main product right now is this customizer on Hero Forge, which lets you choose your character, really change up their measurements to your liking. You can change up the bases, you can change up, the mounts, even have them ride something, or no mount. Change up the poses. Come at me, bro. And really have fun with it, just go crazy. Hook them up with all sorts of gear. Let me go with something crazy. Let's do something like aha, kunai with chain. So you can basically create your custom miniature, and then let's put a shield on her back. Perfect. And then you can have this printed out and sent to you so that you can paint it up yourself and use it in your Dungeons & Dragons gaming or Warhammer or any basically real-life board game. And this company leverages the power of 3D printing to give people exactly what they want in their character. So it's a really cool place to be right now. Lastly, if you want to watch some of my previous presentations or check out the other presenters on Pixelogic, for example, Shane Olson, he's got the broadcast maybe like an hour after mine today, so definitely stick around to check that out. He does some amazing work on stylized characters. That's later today. And if you scroll down through all these amazing presenters, you can see some of my past broadcasts and schedule. So I'll click that up. You can see some more work I've done and check out all the previous streams. So you can see I've started with creating some new Fungusaur characters, little dinosaurs mixed with mushrooms. And this is the one I was working on last week, a little iguanodon mixed with a 2-colored bolette mushroom. And I'm going to try to wrap that up today. But first, since I was talking so much about Hero Forge, I wanted to get onto painting some minis. So here's a mini 3D printed in Form 2 gray resin with the Formlabs 3D printer. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. It's a bit blurry. So what I'm going to do is change up the camera position and start this day off with a little bit of just simple mini painting, because a lot of people are afraid of mini and painting in general. So I wanted to show you how easy it is to get started and really get into it. I'm on the Facebook chat and the Twitch chat, so if you guys have any questions, shoot your questions here. All right, cool. Good morning, Joanne. Hey, Kurt, how's it going? And can you order a print of the character? Yes, so Whisker Keskus, that's basically what you can do. You can either download the model or you can order a print of the character, and you can choose what materials you want. All right, so yeah, if you have any more questions, keep them coming in here. I will push this off to the side. Let's make this window a lot bigger so you can see my face. Haha. If you are looking at my face, you can see I scraped my schnoz right there because I was swimming in a pool yesterday, went from the deep end to the shallow end way too quickly. The perks of having a big nose, just scraped it right along the middle, but no biggie. My nose is used to all sorts of trauma. Bring this guy down. All right, move this out of the way. Let's get a mini in here. Yeah, that's how you can get focused in on it a bit. There it is. So now you can see this character is kind of like your classic Dungeons and Dragons Argonian maid, but she's got a bit of a turtle face because that's one of the options we offer on the site is turtle face characters. So basically what I'm going to do is just get started by doing some painting. I've got a little cup here. I'm going to fill it with some water. I've got a palette, which I guess I'm going to move this back so you guys can see the palette. So this is my messy, dirty palette that I've used a million times, but really straightforward for just putting paint and getting started. Got a really simple, small brush. These are the brushes used at nail salons to paint nails. That's why they're so tiny. You know, really perfect for miniature painting. And what paints am I using? There's two types. I like this whole game color set from, I believe this is Vallejo. Or no, this is Game Color, right? Yeah, Vallejo paints. And so this one is like a basic starter package kind of set. They're all acrylic paints, and this is really ideal for whether you're using a spray paint gun or just, hand painting. The other brand that I like a lot is Model Color. So those are the two I'd recommend. You can just buy them on Amazon if you want, or go to your local craft or hobby store. Right now, I'm going to put some of these paints into my palette so that I have some base to work on. This one's pretty cool, Jade Green. So I'll start there. And I'm just going to basically put a little bit of it into the palette, not that much, because you don't need a lot. These paints go a long way. I don't know if I'll need white yet. Let's see if I've got any other greens in here. Usually I like to use complementary colors, and I don't paint that often, but this character is already green, being the turtle, but I think the having some green clothing would really make it pop. And I think having a little bit of maybe yellowish. This is bronze flesh tone. We got polished gold, elf skin tone. They actually named these really fun names like gunmetal, orange fire, ultramarine blue. Alright, I'm just going to start with this one, because I think mixing the yellow and the green would create some fun results. And later if I want to add some more, because it looks like there's some straps on here that could benefit from just a little bit of darker detail. So I've got black. I'll use some of the black. So I'll just keep it simple for now, just those three colors. And if I need to reinforce the flesh tone of the character, I might go with some of this goblin green, which is a different kind different green color. To check, some of my paint here hasn't dried from my last painting session. Alright. So I'm painting this one up because next week, or actually this week, later this week, is Gen Con, which is a really big nerd fest for everyone involved in minis and gaming, and a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons folks will go there, Warhammer folks will go there. A lot of miniature companies, Sky Castle Studios is going there as well and going to have a booth. And so we're going to have a bunch of these little mini dioramas. This guy, this gal, is for a diorama that my coworker Margaret Dost is making up for the Magic Castle. It's a podcast. Not Magic Castle. Is it Magic Castle? I think it's Magic Castle. No, that's not right. Magic Tavern. That makes a lot more sense. The Magic Tavern, which is a podcast, and we're just going to make a diorama about the guys that run that podcast, which I was listening to for the first time. I'm going to move this out of the way, make sure you guys have some focus on this thing I'm painting. There we go, much better. Alright, the focus will fluctuate, but you get the idea. The goal is basically to dip the brush into the water, a lot, because I'm basically going to be using a wash method. So I'm not painting directly with the color, because that'll just kind of cover up the detail. You can see Margaret's already got it started painting the detail on this character. Let's see. Maybe if I had nothing else in the background except the character, it'll have to focus on the character. There we go. So you can see that she's already got started painting some of the detail on the character. So she started like an occlusion pass and a base color pass. So I don't really want to lose that detail by going with direct paint. So every time I'm painting, I'm going to dip a little bit into my paint. So there you can see I've got a little bit of green on my brush, but now I'm not going to paint directly like this. I'm going to do a little dip in the water so that it'll be more of a wash, like a more, matted color. And then I can start by laying it down. And you can be as careful as you want to be. You can see the mini's moving a little bit because as I paint, but I don't want it to move while I paint for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some sticky putty on the ground here. And then we'll get started. All right. Checking your questions on Twitch. Nothing there. Cool. Facebook. Sweet. Hello, hello. Let me get some sticky putty. All right. Here's some of that sticky putty I was saying. Put that miniature on there so it doesn't move around while I'm doing my painting. And then just keep at it basically. I'm gonna color that whole top a little greenish like that. I think those straps up at the top I'll do a little bit black. Might change up the color of the bottom a bit. But step one is to just kind of lay on this color. Trying to be as careful as I can. That's really the difference in mini painting I've noticed versus painting big things, is the amount of more careful you have to be. I'm not too worried about this black chalice that she's holding because we're going to make that gold later. So we just need the black as kind of a base color. Alright, that's looking nice. I'm going to flip her around so I can paint the other backside as well. You get a look at the character from that end. So I'm curious in the chat log, how many of you have ever painted little minis or painted anything at all? Because so many of us are sculptors. But I guess back in the day, there really wasn't any difference, you know? If you wanted to be an artist, you had to be kind of a Renaissance style artist, be able to do anything and everything. Or, I don't really know what I mean when I say back in the day anymore. Because I could be referring to like Renaissance time. But there was a long back in the day before that. Alright, that's looking nice. Gonna get under the armpits there as well. One day, 3D printing in color is gonna be perfect. That day is not, today is not that day. We're not quite there yet. Getting there. We've gotten a lot of 3D printing color testing going on at work. And it's gonna take a bit more time, I believe. Because all the 3D printing in color that I've seen so far, and there's some really good printers doing it, but it's all still very powdery or dotty. It's not like perfect color finish that you can get just from hand painting. Alright. Get a little bit more on the top. I guess what I was trying to say earlier about the Renaissance masters back in the old days was then they had patrons. They had like a church or a bishop or like a really rich lord that would sponsor them. And that's how they were able to make art for as long as they did, as well as they did. They didn't have to worry so much about day-to-day expenses. But then again, they had to be amazing. And for that, they did years of training. And the kinds of training they did were pretty rough by our standards these days. You know, they didn't go to a art school. They dedicated their entire youth to being at an atelier. And those kinds of schools, there's very few left. There's maybe one in Russia. That's really well known. There's a couple in Italy. But an atelier will basically train you how to, let's see, should I want green, yellow? It'll train you how to copy the old masters and the old styles, and it'll do that by giving you no personal freedom for a bit, so you can't paint or draw or sketch anything you want except for old master studies. And these guys had to do that in the Renaissance time for years before they could do their own work. That's how you master a technique. I'm trying to steal some of this paint from the front side and bring it onto the back side, because I don't want the front to be so, I just want it to be a bit more washed out. There we go. Mixing it with a little bit of green too. Yeah, you can tell when you have so much water on your brushes that they're very light. It's not going to, you know, put on way too much color. I have such a hard time focusing in on this thing. There we go. Huh. Turn off autofocus. Let's see. That's a good question. How do I turn off autofocus? I should figure that out. All right, what is the name of this webcam? This is the Logitech Pro. Let's see if I type that in here. Check. Webcam. There's a webcam software. Webcam controller. Webcam options. Oh, perfect. Autofocus off. Thank you for the tip, EL Spirit. Hopefully that'll do the trick and it'll stop trying to focus all the damn time. Jason Benner saying, I've painted many miniatures. Nice. Diana Branca saying, in Italy, where? That's a good question, Diana. I'm not really sure. It could be likely Florence. That's where a lot of these giant art schools are. But I'm speaking very much in generalities. Nothing specific. All right, perfect. Let's keep at this then. I'm going to wash my brush a little bit and let's get some of the blacks in there. I'm going to have to be a bit more careful now because I'm trying to paint these little straps up top. Kind of using a little stippling method, not like brushing consistently, but just kind of doing little dots so it only covers where I want it to cover. It's a good tip on the autofocus. I don't see it continually trying to make it blurry. I'll have to do that next time too. Kind of hard at that angle. Trying to show you guys. Usually I would have it like right up against my face. And when I say usually, I've only painted minis maybe like 3 or 4 times. I will end up fixing whatever I mess up. So while your paint is still relatively dry, because you can see the back's a little bit messy, you can come in with just water on your brush and kind of wipe away any excess paint. And you can use a little bit of paper towel to just tamp away at it. And that can help you fix any areas that got too much paint on them. You got to do it quickly before it dries though. Alright, nice. So this kind of thing, I was wondering what I should start off with today because I like doing a little bit of show and tell before jumping right into the week's stream. But this does tie in directly with what we've been talking about up till now, because this is 3D printing. These models were created in ZBrush. They were all sculpted in ZBrush. And now this is more of the final after print stage, the finishing. Okay. A little bit more coverage on the bottom lip here. And I like to start off with, a more saturated base color and then get into the darks and lights. Alright, so now I'm going to leave that to dry for a second. Let's move on to a slightly different area. Let's try some of this goblin green. It's very dark green, so I'm going to just really use a very light wash to kind of darken some of the features of the character. Yeah, it's very strong color. Wondering what to do with these pants. Hold on, I'm going to take a closer look. Got like leather shoes going on at the bottom, so I should actually just make those more brown. Something that's more visibly brown. Need a little more black up here as well. Hard to get in there. How's Monday going for you guys? What are you up to? Better. Just tamping away some of the black again. Side effects on Twitch is chilling with nephews and watching the stream, playing games. That's a good Monday, for sure. What kind of games are you playing, man? Jason Benner is saying, what kind of paint are you using, and did you have to treat the 3D print and to help the paint stay on? So usually what I recommend is after you're done with the print, you should prime it. And what I like to use is Tamiya primer because it's very soft, kind of gray finish. That's it's not powdery, and it's a very clean primer. So I'll bring that up later, the Tamiya primer. And then after that, you can start painting. Another reason to do some priming is because if you don't prime your print, and if you just leave the print as is, in the case of resin and stereolithography prints, those prints will just keep absorbing light forever until they become brittle. So you don't need to have a primer in order to start painting. You can just start painting on a print. But I don't recommend leaving prints unpainted or unprimed for long periods of time, especially if they're going to be in the sun or any UV light at all. Alright, now the paint's dried a little bit, you can come back in with some yellows. I'm going to try to bring some of the yellows into some of these highlights. Along the front and the sides. And I think it'd be fun if I bring some of the yellows up into the top as well, like into the green, kind of as a highlight. So this character is very much like nature colors. And you can see I'm using it as a highlight, so I'm only putting it up at the tops where light would hit and kind of leaving it off the bottoms. And again, can tap away at any part I don't want it to be on, kind of keeping it subtle. Subtlety is the name of the game in mini painting, as in many walks of life. If you're too subtle, you won't see anything. So it's a fine line. There we go. Did anyone see the new Mission Impossible movie this weekend? Tom Cruise still got it? I thought so. The movie was amazing. I mean, it was way over the top like you expect it to be, but it was very entertaining. And get some yellows down here into this boot as well, and then get some reds into there. Maybe get some yellows into her highlights. Like that. Whoop, move the camera a bit. As with anything, there's not really any rules in mini painting, so you can just have some fun with it. Alright, so that's pretty good far along as far as I wanted to get right now in terms of a stream. Probably continue painting it later and can post like final images. Let's see, what did I not use? Got the yellows, got that, got the green. Should add some leathery kind of brown. And guess what? There's a color called leathery brown. So I can use a little bit of that on the shoes. Yeah, that's very leathery. It's not even hinting at any kind of reds. It's kind of a very good base brown color. But it is a bit more saturated than the previous kind of brown was, which was a bit dull. It'll be good to get a little bit of highlight going on there with this one. Ooh, another thing I like doing is having a little bit of a drop shadow around the character. Now this character has both feet kind of together and crossed, so it's hard to really see where the drop shadow would be, but I think we should add one anyway. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black, very little, mostly just water, and kind of add in a little bit of hint on the ground. I'm more dry brushing than anything else now, or wet brushing. But hinting at where the character's shadow falls, kind of softly. I think we'll probably end up doing a color on the floor tiles later, but this will give me an idea of what to do with it. Yeah, it's subtle for you guys, but you can kind of sense where I added that little bit of drop shadow too. So later as I keep going, I'd probably go in with a little bit of black and enhance some of those creases and some of those wrinkles in the clothes. Come in with some whites and tighten up the highlights. Maybe add a little bit more color to the top, the hair. But all that'll be at another time. Just wanted to give you guys a quick primer on painting a mini. So what do you need? Again, really straightforward. I'm going to turn on autofocus again because now it's focused at really tight scale. Little cup of water, little paintbrush, a palette, and then paints. The paints I'm using here are the game color set of acrylics, but you can get whichever ones you like. These are from Vallejo. Another brand is Model Color. And so that's all you really need. Just make sure you get the acrylic paints, because those are the ones you can mess around with water. Alright, I'm going to bring this guy back up. And let's get started with the rest of the stream. I'm going to shrink this back down. You don't need to see my face that much. And we'll pop open ZBrush. Side Effects is asking, this is about 2 centimeters high. Yes, 2 centimeters, or I guess 28 millimeters is the standard height for most miniatures. That's what Hero Forge can export at, as well as a few different other sizes. Okay. There are heroic miniatures that are like 50 millimeter. So every rule is meant to be broken. Stuff back here. Put this far away from the laptop. Bring this mini over here as well. Alright, so I've got ZBrush open. Let's pick up on where we left off. So what I've worked on so far in the stream is a few different characters. There's this guy. This is the first one I started on the ZBrush streaming about 7 or so weeks ago. Another one of my little fungusaur creations, which is a stegosaurus mixed with a random green mushroom. So I wasn't really specific at this time about which mushroom I wanted. I just wanted a greenish yellow color because I've already got 8 of them, which I showed you over here. And there is this one, which is green, but that was based on a death cap mushroom. So that's a specific one. I wanted to start another green one because there were all so many earth tone ones, and I didn't know, the pterodactyl one ended up becoming more of a darker, paler green. So I wanted to do something a bit more saturated green and yellow. What I ended up picking was something like that. Make that a bit larger. So Cordinarius, or Q-Focybe is, I guess, the name of it, the Latin name. And you can tell it's basically starts off a bit yellow, goes up, has a pale green, it's got some dark green along the sides. And so that's what I was kind of shooting for. However, the more I look at it and the more I think about this IP in terms of storytelling, you can have some fun with this stuff. So I was thinking maybe I'll do some sort of glow-in-the-dark treatment with this character and see how it turns out. Because there's, believe it or not, glow-in-the-dark mushrooms. Actually, let's do the search for that and see what comes up. Glow-in-the-dark mushroom. Yeah, like straight up, like iridescent with high incandescence glowing-in-the-dark mushrooms. Yeah, they're all on the greener side of the spectrum. And I think that this base color would probably be a really good base color for those, and then add on some glow-in-the-dark paint, because normally glow-in-the-dark paint is invisible until you shine a glow-in-the-dark light on it, or until it absorbs enough UV light, and then it sparkles at night. Alright, so this is one direction I'm likely going to try to pursue with this character, but he's already kind of pretty far along. You can see he's got the derpiness going on, got the little tongue hanging out, and I already did a print of him. So that is right here through Shapeways. And autofocus is on, so it'll probably be a little hard to see. But this is about, I don't know, 3 inches long and about a little less than 2 inches tall. and I've already taken some photos with this character. I like the way it's headed. So you often have to prototype with 3D printing, and if you go back in my streams to a couple streams back, you can see how I got this one ready for paint and print with Shapeways. Basically, in a nutshell, I remeshed it, and then I did a UV mapping just with a quick ZBrush UVs, and then applied the texture map onto the UV, exported this out under 3D Print Hub. You can export as STL or OBJ, but for color printing, you can export as a VRML file. And then just upload that directly into Shapeways as a zip file with the texture and the model together. And then Shapeways knows, okay, texture and color file together, that means it's a color print. And so that's how you can prototype for color. Where I left off on these other two guys, here's the Iguanodon mixed with the two-colored bolette. Giving a thumbs up because that's what Iguanodons do. Give little thumbs ups. And you see I wanted to have a tongue sticking out of this character too. Originally had it over here, but kind of put it off to the side. Kind of like he's an artist, you know, doing this thing. And there's that one, and I want to kind of push that further today. And the other one was this Dilophosaurus. You can see that's much further along, at least in terms of the face. It's a lot sharper, a lot cleaner. You can see what's going on with its features. And I wanted to kind of mess with both of them today, get their bodies and faces tightened up a bit, and then work on the colors for them. So Dilophosaurus here, Jerry. I'm just calling him Jerry because it makes me think of Seinfeld and Newman and the whole Newman character in Jurassic Park, the original, where he gets eaten by a Dilophosaurus, or at least attacked by one. And pig's ear mushrooms, do a little Google search on those, are generally on the purplish side with, you know, they kind of grow darker, but purplish and beigeish. But that gives you some room to play, you know. So I've got purples, I've got some light blues, I've got some lights. And they've got a bit of see-throughness. So you can play with that and kind of add on some of these orange tones as well. So I've got the whole gambit to play with. Orangish purple for that character. And the Iguanodon, I was going with two-colored bolette, which is also a bit purplish. But it's a different kind of purple. It's more of a saturated magenta purple, like brighter, not dark purple. And it's got yellow. So it's like yellow and purple, which are two complementary colors existing on the same creature, same organism. So that's what I'm going to play with today, with a little bit of color after I tighten up the sketches. So I'll keep my reference off to the side on my second monitor. Always got to keep your reference around. Hector Jorge Cortez on Facebook is asking, Tamiya paints can be used? Yeah, I do. So that reminded me. Tamiya Gray Primer. So this is the Tamiya Gray Primer that I use. It's a simple surface primer for plastic and metal gray, and this is the one I recommend for your prints because it's a bit expensive. It's only found in Japan, and there's some other primers that are as good, but this is the one, just preference, you know. And it basically puts a really nice, even, smooth coating over your prints. Obviously, with any primer, since you're spraying this, don't be too close to your print, don't be too far away. It's kind of a nice Goldilocks zone distant, and then you can spray it pretty evenly before you start priming. Tamiya paints, there obviously are a lot of them, so you could get the whole spray paint set, or the little acrylic paints. Those will work just fine. Yeah, Tamiya's, you know, a pretty well-known brand for model painting. So Tamiya, Model Color Vallejo paints, Model Color paints, and Vallejo paints. Vallejo Game Color. Those are the ones I'd recommend for mini painting. But there's a lot more out there, so do your own searching for show. All right, any other questions here? All right, David Aranesepi is asking, hey, Aiman, how do you get your scale on ZBrush? Let's say I need a base for the miniature, 4mm height, 28mm diameter, and a bevel. So, David, what I try to do with accurate scale stuff is try to make something in Maya, import that into ZBrush, and that'll be basically my accurate scale model. And then when I export it out of ZBrush, I'll know the scale. However, if you're starting in ZBrush like I did with these characters, and you just want to have fun sculpting and make it as accurate as you want it to be, appeal-wise, sculpture-wise, and then think about the scale later, you can go to the Z plugin 3D Print Hub, and you can decide the scale you want it to be. So you have to be a bit more precise in this. If you'll have to take a couple of tries exporting. You can change the export options to just selected, so it doesn't try to export all your subtools. And you can also have it set to, I believe, size options. You can say for all tools or per subtool. So you can decide what the scale is for only one subtool and then say export all the other subtools that are decimated already at the same scale as this one subtool. So you don't need to pick the scale of every single item. You can just set it for all tools with your one specific subtool selected and say you said you wanted to do a specific height, right? So in this case, I'll just click Update Size Ratios. And this is the whole body. So the head isn't even part of this subtool. But for the whole body, this is the scale. And I just picked a random one in millimeters. So you can pick millimeters, inches, whichever. Because that's just the start. ZBrush basically analyzes the bounding box and gives you a size ratio, which says 117 to 104 by 127. So 127 is the longest axis, and to me that looks like the front to back, because that looks a bit taller than the character is. So that's that's your longest axis, then you can say, okay, I want it to be 28 millimeters, and that'll be your longest axis in 28 millimeters now. And everything else will adjust accordingly. So now if you go under your export options and do all, and then click export as STL, it'll export this one at 28 millimeters, and then this one will be adjusted to keep at the same scale ratio as the body. So I hope that helps. That's one way you can do it. Or, do your scaling in Maya and Modo or Cinema and bring it in, and then sculpt in ZBrush. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, I want to get both these guys to a good point today. That gives me a little more than an hour. So this will be mostly just, sculpting along with me time. And you can sculpt on your own, or you can just watch me do it and do your own work as well. Let's see, David's saying use the 28 millimeter high cylinder to check the miniature. Yes, that's perfect. Bring in a cylinder that's the right height, and you're good to go. All right, perfect. So now what I'm going to do is just put on some streaming music. Streame. Let's turn that on. Alright. That is way too synth-wavy. Yikes. I don't even want it to be loud, but there you go. At least that one's a bit more upbeat. Because I want some background noise music, nothing like way too intense. Alright, Jason Benner is saying, I usually keep a non-pose version of my sculpt to help establish an exact scale for 3D Print Hub. That's a good call. That way you'll know your character when you're scaling it or moving the pose. it's staying accurate to what the original size you had planned. Okay. All right, so I'm probably going to get started with Jerry here. Bring it a little bit further. I'll open up my pig's ear mushroom reference. And what I see from a lot of these is that it's got a really cool, interesting texture pattern on the outside, but the inside is mostly just kind of dotty and smooth. It does bleed over around the edges a bit, so I want the edges to be a bit crinkly. But the inside will mostly be fine. And I want to recreate this specific kind of wrinkling that happens on the outside of the sculpt. It kind of starts off with long wrinkles and then becomes shorter, tightly packed wrinkles. It's a good example. You can see how it starts and changes. So I want to add a little bit of texture detail on this guy. Now keep in mind, this is for kids' toys, and it's going to be about 3 inches tall, and it's mass produced, so I can't have too much detail. I'm going to switch to my damn standard brush. Switch from Z sub to Z add. Change my alpha from that sharp alpha to something a bit softer. Let's see. Do that. There you go. And I'm going to try to help that bleed over the edge a bit. Now remember, if you are trying to sculpt along the edge of something, you'll see it affects the back side. So in order to have it not affect the back side, you have to turn on back face masking. I've got it set in my interface. Actually, you guys don't even see the bottom part of my menu. We've got a whole bottom part of this thing. Try to rescale this window so you guys can see everything. Here we go. Sorry about that. There. Okay, so I've got backface masking in my custom UI, but for you guys, it's under brush, brush, and I believe somewhere under brush. Samples, elasticity, curve, depth, surface, no modifiers. Where is backface masking? Thin edge models, automatic effect. Because I thought it was under brush. I'm gonna Google it. Google knows all. Let's see. Backface masking. But we are streaming, so if you guys know where it is in ZBrush, holler at me and let me know. That's why I set up the custom UI, so I wouldn't have to think about where the stuff would be all the time. Alright, looks like it is under brush, under auto masking. So under brush, auto masking, backface mask. So that's where it would be for you guys. So now when I sculpt along the edge with backface masking on, you can see it doesn't affect the other edge. Whereas if I had it off, it affects the other side. So there you go. Learn something, maybe. So I'm kind of just winging it as I do, going with a little bit of wrinkliness. Trying to imitate nature, because nature is pretty fantastic. I'm going to turn off Z add and go to Z sub just because I'm more familiar with subtracting away at a mesh with damn standard and then holding Alt in order to bring back the negative a bit. Keeping my reference open on the other page side here so I can be looking at it as I sculpt. So it really is extremely wrinkly. So this is way too straight. It needs to be even more twisty. There is a really cool brush that can help me do that, which is, I believe, called something like Spiral. Yeah. So you can come in with the Spiral brush and really adds even more crinkles. So ZBrush thinks of everything for you. And that's how I'm going to get the effect that I'm after for the wrinkles. And try to kind of extend that into the base a little bit, as well as on the other side. Go back to Dam Standard. Cut in some of these edges. Now a lot of this detail that I can get in this 3D print, it's going to be hard for that detail to be doable in mass production. That's what I've noticed the last time around I just did some mass production, is that it's hard for them to get all of the detail that I want. And this would be true for any factory. So the goal is to really get your sculpt to where you can, be super happy with it, just be stoked with it. And then you can work backwards, smooth things out and see what the factory can do. There's no shortcut here. Just literally thinking about the kind of mesh it is, the direction things would naturally flow in nature. I'm trying to imitate that a bit. Trying to add some random dots and dents in places, smoothing away any problem areas you have. Thinking about things, like I like to think on the fly, on the mesh. Like what if there was more detail along these ridges? And not in the middles. I do like the way it brings more attention to the face if there is some sort of texture along the edge here. So going from like a bit of texture smoothing into the face. And kind of have all of this texture pointing towards the face, because that's what we want. Ultimately, the goal is to have more of your attention come right to this cute face here. So detail is one of those things that you can use to guide a viewer's eye. Have kind of a bit of control over how your piece is viewed. Like if I had detail all over the place, like if this whole thing was covered in detail, there would be no areas of rest. There would be no place for someone looking at this toy, this sculpture, to just be like, my eyes can rest on this part, or my eyes are drawn to this part. So you have to think about that stuff when sculpting. At least I do. Where do I want the viewer's eye to go? It's the same thing painters think about in composition, So going in with Dam Standard, holding Alt to kind of bring some of that detail outward as well, not just inward. And I'll just speed this up a bit, because I can kind of be a bit more straightforward and then come in with the spiral brush and then get some of those nice crinkle details that I want, the wrinkliness. So I don't have to do it all by hand. I don't have to be so wavy. Alright, so you can see, kind of getting it the way I want slowly. Adding a bit more of those deeper cracks as well. That's how it makes it feel a bit more organic. You can't have it all just be repeating or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent. There is no consistency in nature. Everything is a mess. Everything is chaos and entropy. But life finds a way. Okay, that's looking cool. Let's come in with the spiral brush now. You can tap in the brush palette and press S, and it'll kind of narrow it down to just the S brushes. Then it's SA. So you can hold Alt with this as well to kind of give you a spiral in one direction and then a spiral in the other direction. So you can choose what works best for this character, or whatever your use case is. You can also go over the same area a couple of times with spirals pointing in different directions. And then I kind of smooth out all the detail, because I like to add detail and then remove it. And that's how I think about, and if I really want it back, I can add it back on. Check if you guys have any questions over here. Alright, Jason Benner telling me it's under auto masking. Thank you, man. Alright, where's Twitch? Did I close out of Twitch? Oh, there it is. It's weird. When I closed out of Twitch, it kicked me out of the chat log. Strange. Alright, well, it should be able to see your chats on Twitch as well from this point forward. Let's see what happens. Okay, so got a little bit of detail started along the edges. Kind of want to continue that along to the other side, to the back ends. And then kind of have it fade away when it gets to the body. And the body cannot be that detailed. It doesn't need to be. What I do want for the body is a bit of wrinkling and a little bit of separation between the different elements. So you know, hey, that's an arm, that's a leg, that's a forearm, it's an upper arm, or a bicep, as they would say. You can see I've been super skimpy on the details at first. Then I can come back in and get it as detailed as I want. Inflate brush. I like this idea of like long fingers on this character. Makes him just look creepier. And I can use the clay brush as well when something like inflate is fighting with me. You see, I'm also keeping the fingers together up until right at the very end, because that's the mass production and print process at that scale. You just won't be able to keep fingers that are all flayed out. They'll just break, you know? You got to think about those things when sculpting for print. You've got to think about engineering, not just appeal. Because you can get away with a lot of stuff in animation, but not in once it becomes a real life print. kind of hinting at where the knuckles are. Any other kind of finger joints. More for myself than for anything else. Smoothing away, coming back in with damp standard. And I might change this later anyway. Just trying to see what it would look like with more long, thin fingers. There's a fine line between like adding too much detail and not enough detail, especially when you're trying to go for something cute. Oftentimes when you're trying to make something cute, the line is simply err on the side of less detail. But I like thinking about the anatomy first, putting it in there, even if it doesn't need it. You can always get rid of detail, but if you don't add it on, feel like you're not doing your due diligence. Such humanoid looking fingers right now. I need to turn those tips into claws. There we go. Getting back into this forearm. Smoothing that away. Don't need like a line all the way along the side of an edge. Kind of can decide where it needs to be. Like the top of the shoulder would kind of blend into the body a bit more. Smoothing out some of this other stuff back here. Maybe add some wrinkle detail into the tail where it's bending. Somewhere over here where it's kind of wrinkling as it attaches to the leg. Follow that wrinkle all the way through down to the bottom. Yeah, you can see how much of my process is just getting rid of detail once I've added it on, like smoothing it off, blending it away. Because you want to hint at it, you know, you don't want it to be like the main thing. The main thing is the character's face. It's where you want people's eyes to go. So all the body detail is just kind of fun little embellishments for fun. And to make it feel like a real creature. You can see I made the character's feet very large because I wanted it to be able to stand, again thinking about engineering. 1, 2, 3 giant points of contact, very spread out. Let's see if I want to add any detail onto the face itself. That's its own thing, that's good. Let's mess with it. So detail can be used as a double-edged sword. You can use it to draw the viewer's eye as well as push it away. So it really depends on what your intent is. I feel having a little bit of detail on this head crest will help draw the eye. And I think it does. Smooth away some of it. That looks pretty cool. Let's see, turn on solo mode on that. So I can get that detail going down into the mesh. And you can tell it's a bit low res because I'm not subdividing it. It's 52K polys. I guess I could subdivide it once at least. And I'm working symmetrically when I can, just to avoid having to do double the work. Yeah, better. Also, that has the effect of looking like this creature has eyelashes, so maybe I could make it a feminine creature, which is a fun idea. We'll see. We'll get back to that. It's actually really cool how it frames the eyes and can act like a little emotive eyebrow almost. Or maybe it's kind of not even feminine. It's basically using feminine wiles. It's kind of drawing you in, kind of like cute, and then it'll just open up its maw and then devour you. I like that kind of creature. Alright, so now I'm going to look at the face for a little bit. I want to have this detail sorted out for the... I don't even know what to call it. The petals, the leaves, the Demogorgon-y part. Interesting idea to think about sticking out part of his hip as well. Because that could happen. It's very likely to happen, actually. But only if it helps the overall appeal of the character. If it doesn't, then I'm just going to smooth it away. What I do want to do is hint at some of these wrinkles that would go across to the front end. Kind of sculpt them on as I do, and then smooth them away. Now we've kind of gotten accustomed to thinking of dinosaurs as these leathery, scaly creatures. More than likely they were covered in skin, flesh, and feathers, just like birds are. However, since I'm making fungosaurs, not dinosaurs, I get to pursue that leathery look because it's mushroom leather. Mushroom dinosaurs wouldn't have feathers. That would be weird. Real dinosaurs definitely did. I don't know. Look at me here saying definitely about something that was 65 million years ago. Humans have only been around for, what, 300,000? 400,000 maybe? All right, 9:14. So I'm going to pick up the pace. I'm going to get back to the Iguanodon model as well, and then do a quick color pass on both these guys. So I need to get far enough to do that. And reinforcing those nails. Separation between them. So that'll be really obvious when it comes time to paint, where the nails kind of end. Also helps for animation's sake when I do start rigging these characters. So that's what I'm going to start doing starting next week, is start retopologizing and getting the other characters that have already been sculpted and printed ready for my augmented reality game. See, would that nah? Maybe internally it would wrinkle a bit. I guess some of you want to hear the music a bit louder, but I have a question first, so let me answer that. It's lagging because I just clicked Dynamesh, guys. Whenever I Dynamesh at this resolution, it's not that much in terms of polys, but whenever you do Dynamesh, it uses up a lot of your computer's processing power. So you do LAFO 3. Save that one also, the same place, Iguano 3. Yeah, it does look like a face hugger now. Alright, so yeah, I'll get the music going in a sec. Mircea Prunaro is asking, what do you use to retopo a model? So when I retopo a model, I use either ZBrush or I've used TopoGun before. Moto has a pretty good retopology, as does Maya now. So Maya 2018's topology is pretty solid. So I'll show some examples. I'll show you guys some retopoing next week. All right, let's get some music cranking again. All right, so I basically want to work on this head right now, so I'm going to hide away everything else. It doesn't get in my way. Go back into the damn standard tool. Got backface masking on, so I can just get into it. Got my reference up. By the way, this is the reference I'm looking at, for those of you just joining me. This is the pig's ear mushroom. So it kind of starts off with a little bit of light wrinkling, then it gets deeper grooves, and then softens out again. So I'll just do one petal first to see if I can even match the look. I'm kind of just starting off by thinking about the big shape, which is the big part of the wrinkle. And then I'm coming in and defining a bit of those deeper grooves. And I will probably get rid of a lot of this detail after, so don't get too attached to it. That's one thing I try very hard to not get attached to anything I do as far as the sculpt goes. I used to do this exercise back when I was teaching in college in SAIC and in Chicago Art Institute. I used to have the first year students draw something, and I would give them, like, I don't know, 5 minutes to do it, or 10 minutes. And then at the end of it, I would bring up a trash can and tell them to, okay, rip away that piece of paper from their sketchbook or crumple it up and then toss it into the trash can. And they would get really pissed. They'd be like, what? We just spent so much time drawing this thing. And it was only like 5 minutes. But then they were so attached to their drawing, you know, attached to their work. So some of them just straight up refused, but others, you know, happily complied and tossed it. And then I said, okay, now draw the same thing again. And more often than not, people like their second drawing more because they weren't attached to the first one. They just didn't know it. Yeah, so this is starting to look a lot more like the pig's ear mushroom, the back end of it. Feels like what I'm going for. And then I'll hit it with the spiral brush later to really push that wrinkling. So there really is no shortcut with this kind of thing. You really just have to get in there and sculpt that detail. Doing some branching. Not too worried about consistency in look. I'll do a consistency pass later. I am trying to think about the flow of these things, though. Yeah, my rule of thumb is basically, does it give me slight goosebumps? Then it's working. A height map would be useful here, definitely. Do you always work with the 300 resolution? So you're asking about over here. No, it depends. Oftentimes I project off and I'll work at whatever resolution gives me enough detail. Right now I'm not even that high poly. You can see it's relatively low res, 400K. The resolution slider depends what scale you're working on, so it really changes depending on your scale. You know, this chill wave, synth wave mix thing is perfect for doing something like this that's repetitive. Because this is a repetitive task, you're right. It's kind of like UV mapping in a sense, or paint weighting. I don't know if you guys have ever done any kind of paint weighting for influences for rigging. That is one repetitive task. But I will probably be doing some of that later today. I enjoy rigging. I'm weird like that. Enjoy rigging and modeling. They're both two facets of the same kind of thing, I feel. Clean up some of these edges. Started it a little bit on this edge, but I want to have some of these cracks go a lot deeper than other ones. It'll just break up the surface a bit, you know? Don't want it to be too obvious though. And smooth away the inner edges. You know, what I should check is my smooth also has backface masking on, because otherwise I'll start smoothing away the details on the other end. Alright, I could keep sculpting this forever, but I'm running out of time. And I want to get further on these than I am. So I'm going to finish this wrinkling pass and then start up on some color. Or maybe, you know what, maybe I'll hold off on color, just do a base pass kind of thing. But I'll really try to wrap up the iguano sculpt too. Get them both in a good place. Okay. Okay, got that outer wrinkle passed on and everything. This starfish of a head. So now I'm going to start coming in and doing a little bit of the spiraling. Looks like most of the spiraling is concentrated up at the top. I'm going to do that there. It's a really quick way I found to get a lot of cool, interesting organic detail. Is to get it in there with damn standard and then push it a bit further with the spiral brush. Holding Alt to kind of pull back the detail as well in a different direction. Spiral works really well for adding organic detail. Obviously, if you keep holding it, it'll turn into a spiral, so don't do that. Subtlety. Anywhere there isn't enough detail, you can kind of come in and add it back on. Have you guys used the spiral brush before? Shout it out in your chat logs. All right. Bring that back. And then let's bring back the head so I can turn solo off. Oh, looks like I got one random weird thing happening here. Smooth that away. Back face masking on. And just hit a bunch of this with smooth. Okay. I'm going to kind of merge this into the body a bit better. With a little bit more sculpting. Just hinting, basically, that it's all the same creature. David runs is saying, spiral brush, never. I'm more neurotic than that. Sculpt everything with a standard brush because he's a control addict. Sean Lake saying that he adds colors throughout his sculpt to help him see the shapes differently. Now, that's a good point. But yeah, I have trouble getting past the color. That's why I like to hold on to it until I need to. Alright, so this is in a good enough place. It's definitely not done, but it's in a good enough place where I can start adding a bit of color and moving on. So let's do that. Let's see, maybe add a couple more random ones here. Okay. So let's do a base color on this guy, at least, and then move on to the other one. I like to do skin shade for my coloring, and I'll go turn on the MRGB, which is the standard brush. And first things first, I'm just going to pick a purplish color. So I've got my reference open here. I'm going to switch back to just looking at all of them so I can pick different colors. So there's the kind of purple I'm going for with this. A little bit of purplish, a little bit of orangish. I want to make sure it's not this kind of purple with the two-colored bolet. So the difference between this has more red in it and this has more, I don't know, violet? Let's see. Let's get a base color first. Yeah, I'll definitely go with the more purple side of the hue for this. And I'm going to use a plugin called Subtool Master under Z Plugin Subtool Master to fill the color on material on all of my subtools. Obviously, the eyes don't need it because the eyes should just be white with maybe a hint of black and stuff in them. The teeth also can just be white for now. And it looks like the teeth are part of this base mesh. Might pull those apart onto their own mesh, split unmasked groups, and then paint those white as well. Just gives me a bit more control on each of these pieces. And then the eyes, I can come in, the drag rectangle, start painting a little bit of the pupil. He looks so mischievous already. Probably try also Alpha 09, see if I can get a bit of you can always increase the RGB intensity or lower your focal shift if you want a harder line. Trying to see if this will give me the cut I want. It's not really working. So I'm going to go in with freehand. Let's pick a soft alpha. Just hint at the color of the eye. Darker along the sides. Whoop. Undo that. I had my Z add-on for subtool. Don't need that when I'm just doing the color painting. You can solo those. Kind of come in and slowly brush in the color I want. Eyes aren't really ever white, guys. So I'm not too worried about getting rid of some of that white. I do need to come in with an iris color. So I'll probably pick something on the complementary end to the purple, which is a bit more green. So it can have a bit more greenish iris. That way it'll stand out a lot. I'm getting carried away in this character. I won't have time to get to the other one today, I feel. That's alright. That's how you do it. Maybe get a bit of a darker green as well for some of these shadows. Eyes have a bit of a valley in them, so need to get a few more hues in than you think. Go with some whites. Bring in some highlights. Let's see what that's looking like. Well, isn't he precious? I want to try seeing if I can make this edge a bit darker and see if it reads. It's better. And then we'll probably come in and make sure that these eyes have a little bit of red going on in them. Just a hint of it. Alright. So that's interesting. I can still play with that a bit. Maybe go with a bit bluer in the eyes. The bottom. And come in and try to be a bit sharper as well. Eyes are the windows to the soul, as they say, so I like to take some time doing these. Alright, that's plenty for now. And clean up that edge a bit. Good. Let's start changing up this body a bit. Yeah, looks like I've got only 15 minutes left, so I'm not going to have time to get to the Iguanodon model. Because what does it need? Let's see here. Just taking a look at it. Body's not bad. It definitely needs new eyes and tightening up all of the features in the face. So I'm going to continue that in the next stream. Or maybe I'll just wrap it up on my own and then show you guys on the next stream. But this guy, I wanted to take further along today. So might as well try to finish his painting now that I've bought some time. Alright, the other color besides purple is this bit of orangish that this mushroom can have as well. So I need to make the purple lighter in any case. Right now it's too dark. That's the base color. It needs to add more pink into it. And then I need a bit more orange for the insides. So let's go with a little bit more pink, and bring up the highlights. Okay, make sure I'm in the right material. Make sure my focal shift is back up again. And I'm going to try to lighten up these highlights. You see, color really can help to bring this stuff to life. It's kind of seeming like just a dead sculpt until you bring in the color. And you can smooth in that as well. So I'm just kind of adding some color and smoothing it down. Right now just working with the standard brush, and later I'll switch to the color spray. Alright, make sure I can solo this out, and if I paint on the one side, it's not going through the other side. Yeah, cool. Great. Now I've got like a frame around the character's face too, so it really helps you to say, hey, look this way. Yeah, that'll work nicely. Really, no matter what software you guys are using, it's all about just the basics. The basics of understanding how light and color and anatomy work, and you can make it work. I'm wondering what color I should make these toes of his. Claw. The claw. I'm trying something right now, trying to add a little bit of the pink to the top. But I might flip that around. We'll see. Might use a bit of an orangish color tone for the bottom, so just waiting to try that out. See what happens if I make this pink. What I see is that some of the, on the mushroom itself, is that the base can be a bit pink, but then it starts being a lot more darker at the edges. Alright, so there's the lights, or a light pass. Let's also do, I'll just do white for now, for the toes. Come on. One thing I should do right now, because I haven't done it, and I really should, because that's scary, is just save the scene. Alright, click save. Marcel Pernard is saying, make him pink! Maybe. Joanne saying, Dilophosaurus is so freaking cute. Thank you very much. Logusat's asking, do I rig my models? I do, and I'll get into a bit of that next week. So when I start sculpting and I'm trying to figure out what the model's appeal is, what really the character is, I model it at pose, and that way you can figure out more of, you know, the character, the personality of it. And then later on, when I have that, then I'll straighten the model out, splay it out, and then start the rigging process. So you'll see me start doing that a bit next week. How long usually sit on such models? So yeah, I take my time. I've been working on this guy for almost a month now. And in small steps, you know, like I like my process, since I'm working on so many projects at any given time, it involves a lot of just sitting back and not looking at the character and then coming back to it. And I can afford that with a personal project, you know. If this was for a client, obviously I'd have no time. I'd depend more on a concept artist for that, to really work out the bumps and the specifics. Because my concepting skill is very time dependent. At least that's what I've found. Some people can come up with amazing concepts in, like, you know, hours, days, minutes. Some people, it takes time, and that's all right. All part of your own process. What is going on here? It's weird. My spotlight projection, my spotlight, no, my size button is not working anymore. Which is a pain in the ass, but I've got draw size right there. Alright, so that white for the toes is a bit way too white, but it's a base pass. It's fixing any sculpt stuff that bugs me as I go. Alright. So, alright, let's add some darks. So it's that purple. Let's go in with a bit of an orangish tone and see if that works. Because if it doesn't, no biggie. Okay, draw size up again. You know, spotlight projection is on. No, but that's not my draw size. Weird. Alright, so I'm coming in here with a bit of an orange and seeing what it would do. And if I don't like it, I won't use it. Yeah, it's just too different of a color. So undoing out of that. Let's try with the lighter orange. See if that works any better. Because I like two-toning these characters whenever I can. Otherwise, they just kind of look way too single tone. I like to do a tone because otherwise it looks single tone. And other nuggets of wisdom on a Monday morning. Alright, so just looking at it with the orange after I've put it on, not a fan. It's not working for me. So I'm going to keep this character really simple, straightforward, and do it with the one color, the purplish hue. The purplish and pinkish is more than enough, actually. Purple, pink, white, and green, that's 4 colors already for the eyes. So, yeah, not bad. Let's see. Now, side effects is saying purple with some yellow. That's a good call. Now, this mushroom itself, looking at my reference, it can have a bit of yellow, kind of in the crevices. It's really dependent, you know. Like sometimes um, there's types that are more purple. There's types that are more yellow, and so you can pick. And there's types that are just straight up boring brown, which I already have a few brown ones. I don't want to do straight brown. Lot of googling, a lot of googling. Actually, Pinterest is amazing too for looking at different species of mushrooms as inspiration for me, because there's just so much cool stuff on Pinterest. There's the Amanita muscaria. There's the famous Mario mushroom I used already for my Paradox character. There's a greenish one that I can use for the Stegosaurus. Yeah, some inspiration stuff. Let me come back to it. Doo-doo, doo-doo. Orange tiger stripes, and I already did that on a different one. Yellow's a good call. I can mess with that and see what can happen. Let's add a bit of yellow to the edge here and see if it works. Change the draw size. The fun part of we're doing something like this is that it again frames the face of the character. And so then you can have some fun with it. And then I can come in with the less intensity, increase my draw size, just kind of blur that yellow up into the inside pink. So it becomes yellowish pink on the inside, which again helps to highlight more of the character. And that's really what it comes down to. Does it help the character? And since purple and yellow are relatively complementary, they work well together. Yeah, I'm liking that. That's fun. Thank you for the suggestion, dude. See, I'm bringing the yellow in more on the ridges than on the internal flaps, because those can remain pinkish. On the outside, that just means you can see a bit of yellow, not a lot of it. And I should try to change up the flaps on the outside as well. So let's maybe pick a darker color. And hit those dark areas. And if I've got this pinkish hue going on wherever the sun hits the character, then maybe I need a darker hue going on for wherever the sun doesn't hit the character, like the bottom. Just some simple shadows and highlights right now. Alright, as much as I want to move on to other stuff, since I did start the Iguanodon with you guys, I'm going to try to wrap him up with you guys too. So next week's stream, we'll work on him. And then I'll have 3 of these guys complete with you guys on the stream. Little thing we've done together, which is kind of cool. And then I'll move on to retoping. So I might start talking about retopology next week. Hopefully. If I can get far enough along. 2 hours for stream is a short time. Alright guys, so I'm about to wrap this stream up. Hopefully you enjoyed this process, watching me do this thing. I'm gonna also ask that you try to hang out. In about an hour is Shane Olson's presentation, and he is an awesome guy and an awesome teacher. I actually learned a bunch of stuff from him as well. So check it out. Stay for the stream around 11-ish. Yeah, I'll keep playing with this later. And thanks for joining me, guys. Let's see if there's any last-second questions I can answer. Should grab some of Shane Olson's free brushes. I should grab some of those. That's a good call. Yeah, so far I was just doing the standard brush with the basic alpha. Later on, I try to do a color spray with something like Alpha 07. And then that way, let's see, bring in with the darker, you can get a bit of surface detail stuff going on, or a feel of it, you know? And that just adds to the organicness. Organicness. Yes, I said that. It's a word. Trust me. It's tremendous. It's the best words. I have the best words. There we go. So yeah, simple, like, you know, color dots pass like this, it adds so much already. Subtle, but works. Nah, not in the middle. All right, in any case, thank you for the recommendation. I will check out Shane Olson's brushes. All right, check Facebook, all is well there too. So yeah, thanks for watching me stream today, guys, and see me next week, Monday around this time again. And stick around for Shane Olson's in about an hour. Have a good one, guys. Next time.